Good morning. This is the Great Basin Seasonal Outlook, taking us from April to July into the first part of this fire season. Taking a look at the temperature and precipitation over the past month. On the left-hand side, temperatures a little warmer than normal across the eastern portion of the Great Basin, indicated by the yellow to brown by about anywhere from 1 to 3 degrees. Slightly cooler than normal across the western portion of the Great Basin. On the left-hand side, precipitation percent of normal. You can see wettest across our southern areas. Some places up to 400% of normal precipitation in the south. Also wetter than normal across eastern Utah. Still overall drier than normal conditions across much of the western and northern portions of the Great Basin. Looking at our winter season from October through the end of March, you can see that we've been in a significant dry pattern, especially across parts of Nevada where precipitation the past 6 months or so, anywhere from only 25 to 50% of normal in the red and only 50 to 70% of normal in tannish colors. It is in the far south that we've been significantly wetter than normal in the purple, anywhere from 150 to 200% of normal. Parts of southern Nevada into the western portion of the Arizona Strip. Now we also take a look at the fall and winter of the precipitation of the previous year, 2018 to 2019. You can see how much wetter than normal we were the previous winter. We'll be looking at this a little bit later on. This plays a role into how much carryover fuel we'll have in the lower and middle elevations for this upcoming fire season. Looking at current snowpack, pretty much near normal. Areas in the green, near or slightly above 100%, slightly drier than normal or less snowpack than normal across the Sierra front. So overall, characterize it as a normal snowpack. Soil moisture, still a little early to look at this, but near normal conditions across most areas, a little wetter than normal just from some recent precipitation across parts of Utah. The evaporative demand drought index, or the short-term flash drought, indicates fairly moist conditions, a little bit dry here across portions of northwestern Nevada, but again, this is something we'll be watching more as we go later into the spring months. Looking at the longer-term drought pattern, we do see that we developed a significant drought, at least moderate drought, across parts of southern and central Utah into parts of the Arizona Strip. Also, we have a moderate drought across parts of western Nevada as well. And on the right-hand side, you can see that in these dark shades of brown, that the drought will persist or intensify in these areas. Some fuel conditions, 10-hour fuels, driest in the single digits, 5 to 6% here in the far south, and not really a strong predictor of the upcoming fire season. This can change daily. We'll look at the 100-hour fuels. You can see the lowest levels in the low teens or upper single digits in these yellow shades. Otherwise, most areas are moist. And fairly moist on the 1,000-hour fuels with some recent precipitation and snow across much of the higher terrain. Driest conditions, 1,000-hour fuels in the low teens across parts of western and southern Nevada. We're looking at some of our fine fuel grass loading from the previous year. This was from July of 2019, and we had far above average amount of grass, especially across our southern areas into southern Nevada and into parts of Utah as well. And that was due to that abnormally wet winter the previous year. We did not burn as much of it because live fuel moisture stayed so high well into last fire season. So again, we look at that condition from that wet winter the previous year, 2018, 2019. This also gives us a hint to where we'll have some good carryover fine fuel in our lower and middle elevations. That'll play a big role in our upcoming forecast. Because this coming winter, look how dry we've been. Again, a repeat of the slide we showed earlier. The only place that could see more significant precipitation here is in southern Nevada. Otherwise, we're mostly dry in other areas. So we've put the past conditions together. We look at what happens from here, from an El Nino or La Nina signal. Computer models indicate that we'll be trending towards neutral conditions here between El Nino in red and La Nina in the blue. The significance there is that typically means a fairly normal onset to the monsoon. Still, a lot of things could happen, so we don't expect as big of a delay in monsoonal activity as we might have had in last year or some of our previous years. So looking at some of the climate outlooks, a short-term outlook for April 8 to 14th. This is the 8 to 14 day outlook. And you can see cooler than normal, wetter than normal conditions in the short term. That'll definitely help snowpack a little bit and grass growth. As we go into April and into the 3-month outlook, however, we do notice a significant warming and significant drying, and that's really critical because with the carryover fuels, if we dry out in the late spring to early summer, that does pose a threat of above normal fire conditions in some areas. Predictive service long-term analysis does indicate this, especially temperature-wise, of warmer than normal conditions across the Great Basin as we go into May. Also potentially dry to very dry in some of these areas that have good carryover fuel. So this will be a big issue for us as we go into fire season. So as we put all the pieces together, April and May, no significant fire potential, but as we get into June, these places here, especially the lower to middle elevations with the finer fuels, this is where we expect above normal fire potential. With a normal monsoon, those southern areas should normalize, but the threat pulls further northwards where we still expect good carryover fuel from the winter of 2018-2019. This concludes our monthly and seasonal outlook. Our next outlook will be issued the 1st of May. Have a great day.